Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first full council meeting of 2023. Before we continue, I must read out the script. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Town Council and, where possible, live streamed on YouTube. Please note that the recording device is sensitive and the live stream may be recorded by third parties. So do not say anything you do not want recorded. If necessary, I will direct all recording in the room and the live stream to be stopped. But generally, I want to avoid doing that, so we will normally record everything except any item taken in closed session. Members of the public may also make their own recordings, but must follow our rules for doing so, including stopping recording when requested. Whilst we do not accept anonymous speaking at the public forum, members of the public who wish to speak but do not want their name published must please indicate this before saying your piece. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the agenda. Item 1, apologies for absence.
Your apologies from Councillor Marks and Councillor Wither-Jones.
Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda, declaration of interest and requests for dispensations. Do we have any? None. Item 3, minutes of the meeting of the Town Council held on Monday, the 9th of December 2022. Do you want to put them up? Okay, right.
Say that word. Oh. Sorry. I apologise.
Next page, or further up, please. 3 to 9. So there's a few things that need to be covered off. Do you want to do that now?
Do you want to do that in the next item?
Okay. Three, 3, 1. Three, 3, 2. Thank you.
Sorry, just on that, my recollection, I gave a verbal report, you've got no report.
I'll check.
My recollection is the same.
It's handy if people spot anything missing from the minutes when they're sent out to let me know so I can check things before the meeting.
Apart from that correction, do we have a proposal for these minutes?
Well, do you need to wait then until these are corrected?
Okay.
Correct them at the next meeting.
Pass.
The clerk says that they need to be corrected first before we can agree them.
Well, you won't be able to sign them, will you?
Correct.
It'll be online.
Okay, if we move on to item on the agenda number 4, to note progress of actions arising from the minutes not already covered by this agenda.
Sorry, Chair, we haven't voted for the minutes yet.
Well, you're not going to because
Well, you could be able to amend the amendment.
well, we don't know what the amendments are going to be. So you'll normally
Well, there might be others.
normally you hear the amendment and then agree
No,
the
no,
amendment, but we don't know. We have to look and see what the councillor wrote
Why
said.
can't you
I might
amend
write
what
something
it
else.
Yeah, true.
I think all you need to say is that I gave a verbal report, I don't think you need to be any more.
Well, you usually minute what the report was.
Oh, okay.
It may have been important.
So can we go on to item 4A?
Playback.
Ambulance response times.
So we've got the meeting with Councillor Stinchcombe and Councillor Brown happening Other people can join, other people can join remotely. So obviously not everyone's going to be able to make it, not everyone will want to make it, not necessarily want to have a meeting with everybody in it. So if people can let me know if they are able to make it and if they intend attending in person or intend attending remotely, then I'll send that information through.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add, Councillor Brown?
No, obviously we'll have a report after Thursday, so hopefully it'll be good news.
Fantastic. And moving on to 4B, gritting issues.
Yeah, well, I've written again to Councillor West asking if he's had any luck getting a more updated database. I haven't heard back from him, and that was last week. I was preparing the agenda. We're still waiting to know. I mean, we've had another one that was reported, and we've been told it's not on the list. So nothing's particularly changed, and I've asked Sal to put this item on the agenda. So the meeting is in March.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5.
Do you want any of the other ones? These are just kind of the key ones. I think there's county councillors make gritting a priority topic for Cabinet. Comes under gritting.
Sorry, I'm not with it tonight.
Okay, so the gritting issues, there were a number of actions under gritting issues,
Yeah.
not just one. So there was what I've done, then there's county councillors raising gritting at Cabinet. Another one is me again. John Duff, I've emailed. I used his website thing to email him. I haven't had any response to it.
Right, okay.
I don't know whether do you ever bump into him?
Yeah, up at the yard, so...
Can you ask him if he got anything from him?
Yeah.
You never know if those website inquiry things really work.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So as I can see it, it says it suggested that county councillors and Haverhill Town Council make a point of making gritting a priority topic for Suffolk County Council Cabinet. Has that been undertaken?
No, I mean when you see the report, it's been quite a quiet month at county. But I will, when I see Councillor Paul West, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with him.
I think it's possible. We've got a group on Friday, which is probably worth raising there because it will come up with other council members. So we'll do that on Friday.
Councillor Stinchcombe?
Thank you, Chair. Colin, is it possible that "and HTC" is some kind of a typo? Did it mean county councillors on Haverhill Town Council, or does it mean that we have to tell the Cabinet that they have to make it a priority topic? Because if we knew how to do that, we'd have won, wouldn't we?
I'll look on the video and see what
Thank you.
the thing was said.
So if we have finished on item 4A and B, we'll move on to item 5. Reports from district and county councillors on issues pertinent to Haverhill and the public forum. 5A is a police report. Have you actually met?
Yeah, we did. We had that meeting with Councillor Hanlon and Roach
In my
and
report.
Burns.
And
Was in his report.
It did say what the details
you just said you had.
Well, a lot of them are considered confidential.
Right.
For the public I'm talking about.
Yeah, but if there is anything that comes up at these that you can share, be good in future.
Yeah, I know, there's nothing that
No.
we had not really discussed, that I'm aware of.
Yeah, it's
I
mainly
can remember anything.
it's mainly about you know what really. You know what happened.
You know what?
Yeah.
No, it's the incident in Stratford Square.
Yeah, the incident. Yeah, it's mainly about that.
But it was a useful positioning meeting with the new inspector. So it was useful to set out that we're going to have these on a regular basis, and it's having that ability to have that dialogue. So I think it was useful to re-engage.
Yeah, I think Sorry, Chair. I think we'll give a better report at the next meeting, really, because it'd be more general. You know, this particular one was private.
I mean, there were discussions about the officer strength and vacancies and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
So I think they're holding one PCSO vacancy at the moment.
Yeah.
They're up to strength on some aspects, but they've got some holes in the rapid response, wasn't it? I think they've got some, or was it the other way around? The SNT are okay, but the rapid response, I can't remember which way around it was, but there was vacancies in one of the teams.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Just to add to that, because I forgot about that bit. Just to add to that, he was saying that in general, across the whole police area in West, in Suffolk, there is a shortage of police officers.
Thank you. But you're still not going to come and attend that full council meeting?
We didn't invite him, so we can't say he wouldn't attend. I dare say if we invited him on a particular topic, I'm sure that there'd be ability for somebody from the force to come and talk to us.
Thank you.
I think they were more open to it than what they had been before.
Councillor Dave Smith?
That's fine. Perhaps it was in John's report. I was wondering how often these meetings are going to be. Is it monthly or quarterly or
Well, quarterly.
quarterly?
Yeah.
Councillor Burns?
The idea, as I understand, is for our community engagement officer to come and brief the council every 3 months, as well as these meetings.
We can invite
Sure.
Sharon any time.
Yeah, she does know about it,
Yeah, but I mean, to a certain extent,
we need to formally invite her.
I think the rule that the Chief Constable gave several years ago still stands, that parish council should have a particular reason why they want to have somebody along an issue, rather than just generally have people come along to say that there hasn't been any crime. Obviously, that's smaller parishes. In Haverhill, there's probably always something, but it needs to be specific.
Yeah, it's not what's happening now, is that the PCC and the Chief Constable are keen for CEOs to brief councils. The problem they have is all the parishes, there's loads of parishes, but there's only 6 towns in West Suffolk, as we know. And the idea is that they are very keen, particularly the new Chief Constable, to get people out there and talking to the people. It's all part of the increased visibility, if you like, of the police, not physical, police around, well, there are police always around, but just being able to engage. So Shell tomorrow has got a meeting at the Link, public engagement. So I think it would be worthwhile inviting her formally every 3 months.
Do you want to invite her to the next meeting?
Yes, please. Subject to her diary.
Good check. So, could I ask you, obviously you've been involved with the precept setting for the police. So is the increase they're asking for going towards more community policing? I mean,
Yeah, there will be by the end of March 1,403 officers on the head count, which is about 250 more than it was about 5-6 years ago. They're actually going up, that's the minimum, they actually think they're going up to 1,428 because they found some more funding for that. Most of the headcount increases come from the government's 20,000 officers across the country. But equally, the precept has paid, over the last 2 or 3 years, has paid, not just for local policing, but increases to URSU, to cybercrime unit, and all these other things that are going on. But it was most definitely said, and it was said at accountability the week before last, I think it was, and we said on Friday that there were minimum 1,403 officers across. So we have, locally, we have got a lot more officers than we ever had before. Where we suffer in this county is that PCSOs.
Yeah.
But as Tim said on Friday, is what do you want? A person who is on local but can do a lot more than a PCSO, can work overnight. PCSOs can't work overnight, that sort of thing. And he says often PCSOs are actually on a lot more money than a police officer, which sort of makes it a bit silly, isn't it? Based on seniority and stuff like that. So there are about, in Suffolk, there are about 50 PCSOs across the whole of Suffolk, but it is going down by natural attrition.
Okay. Thank you. If we can move on to 5B, County Council's reports. We received the report from Councillor Mason yesterday. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to that, Councillor Mason?
No.
No, it's been fairly quiet at county. Obviously, our biggest post-bad is around potholes, and highways are inundated. They are absolutely flat out. And we all know from just driving around how bad the roads are and how many potholes are. And they're reported, and the teams are just working as hard as they can to get around them. So, whilst we'd like to see them all fixed immediately, they're just struggling. And it's the same everywhere. The weather has exasperated poor roads anyway, and with the cold weather and then the wet, they're just all wrong. I was going to say it's just hot, but I was trying to avoid the office. But they are flat out. But I would still encourage anybody, if you see one, to use a reporting tool and log them all there.
Just quick on that one. I did report one as an emergency, and it was 5 inches deep, which is categorised as an emergency. I mean, someone in motorbike into that, and it took them over a week to come in.
It is because they've got an awful lot of those categories, and we saw that, didn't we, with 1307. There's 143 to Bury had several big holes.
I did my target on one of those.
So it's really difficult for the teams at the moment. But just all we can do is keep reporting and keep pushing. My county head on. That's it.
Thank you. 5C, District Council's reports. I presume again you don't have anything further to say, Councillor Mason?
No, it's on the report.
Okay. Any other district councillors?
It's just come out today. There's been a missive come out for me with my planning hat on for local plan. So we're having to revise the timetable of the local plan a little bit because the government haven't finalised the change to the national planning policy framework. We're still really waiting for that white paper to be cast in stone. So rather than go forward to examination on the current timetable, we're going to wait. We recommend now to council that we wait until that becomes clear. Otherwise we could end up doing an awful lot of work around policies and everything else, and the government's paper says no, we're not going to do that, because they were talking about, for example, not having local policies and it all being set in the national framework, and just less so. At the moment we've got a big suite of local planning policies. So, for example, that's one of the things that could change. So we'll wait and see. So it's out for consultation at the moment. That closes fairly shortly, and then we'll see where we go from there. So it's probably going to be 3 to 6 months delay from where we were. So it's not a big delay, but it is a delay. But we would like to have got it through in the March's full council, so that we're ready for the final consultation. But we're just not going to be able to do it. So that's the reality. And if we go forward without a robust submission to the inspector, we could end up with all sorts of nasties from the inspectorate. So it's better to keep control.
Thank you, Councillor Roach. Councillor Hanlon.
Yeah, my big one is Abbey Croft, really, as a district councillor. I've sent you emails, there's a big string of them. Yeah, it's mainly about special needs not being put on during the half term in Haverhill, whereas all the other towns in Suffolk area has. From the chief, no, not chief executive, but one of the officers at West Suffolk said that Bury and another town have contributed to it, towards putting it on. But that's not the point. You know, not all the towns contributed, as she put. And she seems to have washed her hands a bit and sort of put it back to the town council. But it's not about putting it back to the town council. What I feel it should be done by, if they're going to do it, it shouldn't count on only the town council contributing. It should be other companies they should be going out to if they want to finance it. No, that's the thing. Anyway, I've got a meeting with this new officer that they got, Abbeycroft, which I've got to sort of go back to her on, but I'm trying to find out information. I want some information. I did ask Colin, but I think it shouldn't be Colin that gives me it. It should be Karen, really. I'm trying to get information so that I can sort of go back and sort of push my case. I don't want it to sort of go in competition with the zone, because this is slightly different to what the zone does for special needs. But as I say, this is sort of completely different, really. I feel it's sort of something that should be done for the special needs in Haverhill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do you want to respond to that before we move on to the next councillor?
Not particularly, unless anyone's got a particular question.
Just feedback on that.
Yeah, I'm not totally convinced what you're saying, Councillor Hanlon, is 100% correct. But I'll wait and see what other councillors are going to say. Councillor Smith?
Apart from things Councillor Burns has covered in his report, it was a very full report again, thank you for that. The other thing, another meeting with the Muck-Off ACORD campaign, which is a very interesting meeting, a well-attended meeting about 2 weeks ago. They're putting a very forceful campaign together, and but they're concerned that not that many people in Haverhill actually know what the proposal is and how it will affect people in Haverhill. So they're asking for sort of people to just say what's happening, you know, make people aware what's going on and what will be on their doorstep. So if I can put that out there for anybody who comes in contact with anybody who may have other contacts, to sort of like escalate it, let people know to comment on the county council website.
What is the up-to-date position regarding county?
Right, and as yet there is no planning application received. So, as I pointed out to the protest group, until county actually receive a planning application and the environmental impact assessment is done, as far as council's members are done, there's nothing much that we can do other than go to the meetings and support them. So we're waiting for that application to come in from ACORN. Then when it does, then we can look at it. But until we actually get an application into county and it's under the waste system, then there's not much that we can do. But you know, Dave goes to the meetings. I've gone to them, and they're interesting. I took the opportunity to go out and look at the anaerobic digester site at Lady Euston's estate and looked at that, and it's a similar plant to what they're proposing there. But I would say the fact they said it doesn't smell, they do smell, and that one still smelled when I went round it. It still had a whiff. If anybody's gone past the one on the 505 at Baldock, so it is a huge concern. So my view is it's the right thing in the wrong place, and but until we get a planning application, there's not much that we can actually do as members. Once it goes in, then we can support our residents in the process and making sure they have their voice at development regulation when it comes up. But until we actually get it in, it's still what's ifs and maybes.
So So there's no environment report being done
Not
until
yet.
you get the planning. Councillor Mason.
Yeah, just nothing that you've said is incorrect. Just add on a little bit. James Cutting, the officer at County who was dealing with this, said that on October of last year, Suffolk County Council provided an environmental impact screening opinion that this proposal would require an EIA, environmental impact assessment, should any application, planning, permission be submitted. So the next stage is for Acorn to submit a request for Suffolk County Council to provide a scoping opinion.
No, that's the wrong way round. The Acorn have to do the environmental impact assessment. We don't. All we said at the county there was they must supply one before they go to the next stage. We don't do it. They do it. And David Rutlerstein. James is the director for planning, but he's not the.
I'm just reciting what it is there. And he just made a comment, we've yet to receive such a request or an application for planning permission. So I think in terms of the EIA, they need to ask Suffolk County Council what should be included in it, and they've not even done that yet. That's the point. It's not that Suffolk County Council do the EIA. Acorn need to ask what should be in it, and they've not even asked those questions.
They've been told, because they've been told they have to do one, but then it's gone quiet. So
okay, I'm just reciting what the officers reported to me.
Councillor Joe Smith.
I can understand the council sort of their meetings saying that they can't do anything to this planning application, but the implication was that the group, not a protest group, they're a proper consultative group now, they've got that status, that they've shot the bolt too soon, they've gone too soon, but no, it can never be too soon starting a campaign like this, because if you wait, you've left it too late, if you wait till the actual plan's ready. So it was important that they struck while iron was hot.
Yeah.
I spoke to Peter Stevens today, and he said to me, I may have got wrong in his teeth, but I'm sure he said the environmental assessment, impact assessment has now been done, and it is available to see. And I'll have to get in touch with him and find out exactly where he got it from, but he said it was very difficult to get hold of it.
Yeah.
Okay, there is one already provided in the initial proposal that was submitted to West Suffolk Council. Suffolk County Council, my understanding is that isn't sufficient, and the EIA has to be redone, and that Acorn need to contact Suffolk County Council about what should exactly be in it, because when they submitted, I've seen their initial EIA, and it's not sufficient for them to submit a planning application on.
Okay, well my impression was that this is something that's just came up. Okay.
But that's news to me, I haven't seen it.
But I think it's important that we as Town Council show our support to the campaign group, because as I say, it will have a big impact on not just Withersfield, it's going to have an impact on the 30,000 people roughly that live in Haverhill. So we need to sort of continue giving our support to that group. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Burns.
Only to go back to the getting the news out there, they've got an active social media thing which is going like mad. They've also got tons of leaflets around which are going around like mad, so I don't know how much more they can do. If they're expecting people to read a website, they make it patently clear that's what people should be doing, but I think they've just probably done enough as they can do now until there's more information made available, including what criteria is being used for the site selection, because that's very important when it comes to planning for an environmental. What other sites have they considered in the area that is perhaps owned by the same landowner?
Okay, that was the thing. Perhaps I should send a website.
Thanks, Lou.
Dave, people get aware of the situation because I've handed out over 5,000 leaflets and still to.
You have to, yeah.
I've been handing them out left, right, and centre, and I've even been going the old push block. To try and get the sort of message across the brilliant.
Thank you all. Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, I did have a hand around, what's happened, was talking around earlier. I totally agree with what Pat said. It shouldn't be down to the town council to provide everything for youngsters during the school holidays. It seems that every organisation is, you know, points towards Haverhill Town Council, but you know, it wouldn't hurt West Suffolk to put their hands in their pockets. I don't know, you know, Abbeycroft via a community chest application, so I don't know if they can or not. But there's other ways of getting funding, and they haven't been to the Town Council since 2020, asking for money anyway. So I don't think Abbeycroft have got any argument at all with why, you know, this hasn't been provided for the youngsters or the opportunity. So yeah, so you know, well done, Pat, for you know pushing that. Yeah.
Yeah, just was going to add, I mean, in 2021 for definite, Abbeycroft did provide this service. As you say, there was no request for funding. I also can state that at that time I was working on a voluntary basis for REACH, and despite the meals coming from Abbeycroft to East Town Park, the response from the public was like dire, to the extent that the food was just wasted. And obviously, yes, the zone is involved, albeit on a different basis, but yes, for the next 5 weeks, they will be providing the facility for people to cook and obviously take home whatever they make and any residual produce. So we are, in a sense, providing this, perhaps not in the way that Abbeycroft was previously providing it. So I'm a bit confused as to where this funding issue is.
No, it's two different things.
I know they're two different things, but what I'm saying is in 2021, Abbeycroft provided the service without any funding. So I don't know who paid for that at the time.
But obviously, COVID was going on there, so.
And so, Mason?
I would actually like to agree with Councillor Hammond about disappointment regarding provision for young people with disabilities. I am certainly not using this word lightly or aiming it at anyone in particular, but we need to be aware that if provision for these groups isn't provided, it smacks of ableism. Ableism is providing activities for able-minded children, and quite often the disabled community feel excluded from being able to take part in those. And I'd like to think that as communities we're moving forward and we try to become more inclusive, and where possible reduction in opportunity isn't seen, and we should be seeing increase in opportunity so that our disabled community can feel empowered and feel catered for. And I think the lack of feeling catered for is often a source of frustration, that people have to go out of town to Cambridge or to Bury St Edmunds or to other places for their young. So, you know, whilst I'm certainly not suggesting it is an example of ableism, sometimes it can happen accidentally. And, you know, I think where possible it would be nice to see such activities return, however they're funded. I think we should make the point that that is something that we would like to see, and that our young, ably challenged young can take part in those activities that they should be entitled to. So, yeah, good work, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Hammond? Thank
you very much, both of you, for saying that. Yeah, the thing is it's getting this new officer that Abbeycroft have just come up with, to get that person to do the proper publicity. In other words, and this is why I want the information from Karen, all the special needs people, organisations in Haverhill and the slightly surrounding area as well. So I would need that information so that I could talk to this officer, so that she could get in touch with all these organisations, because they're the ones that know the people, because a lot of these people are sitting in their houses, and I think Karen's the best person to know all these sort of people. So if I'll get the information from Karen and have a meeting, I'm sure this would help to enthuse them people to come out and use Abbeycroft if they put on the facility for us, for Haverhill. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Any more district councillors' reports before we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is 5D, members of the public. Do we have any members of the public? I guess not. Moving on to item 6, Mayor's report has already been circulated. Any comments? Item number 7, One Haverhill Partnership, to receive a report from the clerk on matters relating to One Haverhill Partnership.
I haven't been any meetings on that.
Okay. Moving on to item 8.
Chair, I don't know if there's a point of order on that last item. What is the status of Haverhill partnership? I mean, is it still fit for purpose? Is it happening? Are there meetings being planned? It's felt very quiet for quite a long time.
Well, it has been because it ran out of money and it didn't have any way of organising itself. So I applied for funding from the Levelling Up UK Shared Prosperity Fund to provide some financial support for it. We were successful in getting £1,000, so they'll be able to meet, but that hasn't happened yet.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Mason?
It feels like treacle.
Well, it has been. If an organisation runs out of money, then you can't do anything. So.
Can I, sorry, are we referring to the task groups or the actual organisation?
I don't know what is currently happening. So task groups, the organisation. I mean, what?
Okay, well, if I say an anti-social behaviour task group, we meet regularly, and we eventually report back, and we are working on a project on drug and alcohol support at the moment, as an example. But I have no idea about the other task groups. Certainly, the master plan is not met. Yeah.
Health has died. The health task group hasn't met for about a year or more.
Yeah.
Well, that was still on the education task group, as I'm aware, but we haven't had meetings since COVID, to be honest.
Referring back to the last meeting was November, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
At Parkway, and there was a meeting, can't remember any minutes coming out, and I can't remember if there's a date of the next meeting. That's my recollection. We weren't at that meeting, I don't think. So maybe we need to get in touch with Mr. Hunter to find out what's going on. Who is the chair?
As a matter of interest, Colin, who was behind setting up of the One Haverhill? What was there? It's from the government, wasn't it?
Town Council put in the application for the budget, community budget pilot, and Haverhill was successful as being one of the 10 pilot areas, and very successful. Was awarded £250,000 over several years by the Department for Communities and Local Government, and it set up things like all the work that Karen's been doing ever since, and won all sorts of awards and all sorts of things, but the money gradually dwindled away, and we got some other money in to do projects like the social prescribing, etc. And every now and again, a little blip of work. But the request from the chair at the time was that if people apply for project funds, that they include some core funding to help keep the partnership going. And that didn't happen. Well, it happened in one case, an application we put in, we included that, which helped things a little bit. But other projects, those applications went in without additional funding to help keep the core going. And as you know, as we with the Secretariat, we started ringing alarm bells 24 months ago at
Yeah.
least, saying that if we do nothing, we will run out, and we ran out of money last year.
Yeah. So the government seems to have lost enthusiasm in these. So.
No, not at all. The One Haverhill Partnership is almost precisely the sort of local reference body that's described for levelling up. But
its funding model wasn't correct.
Well, there wasn't a funding model associated with that. The funding that's come through from the UK SPF, the difficulty it had was it's got dozens and dozens of things to spend money on.
Yeah.
And if you've seen West Suffolk, which is a typical example of how they're allocating the UK SPF money, I think you get down to things like over the next 3 years, in order to assist levelling up the whole of the district through arts and culture, £14,000, and that's typically and that's actually fairly large. They're much smaller grants than that, and I think there's a few major projects in the country which have attracted headlines recently, but the money that was dished out to every single locality has been spread so thin it couldn't really make any difference at all. I mean, if it were me, and I apologise to all of you because you're a local government, I would have given the money to education if you really wanted to level up this country, give the entire billions to education, but they decided to do it in all sorts of different ways. So. But there you go.
Yeah,
but I applied and we got some funding for One Haverhill Partnership to try and make a bit of difference, and we've also got some money from the UK SPF for some work being done by the zone. That's nothing to do with One Haverhill. But yeah, so that £1,000 will go a little bit towards getting a new business plan written. A very little bit. It was far less than we applied for.
Yeah. No, thanks.
Councillor Burns?
Colin, can I reiterate the fact we need to get the website up to date? And I've offered to do that work, so somebody needs to sit down with me and get it up to date.
Yeah, I'll mention that to Andrew.
If you would mind, please.
Obviously, the website wasn't maintained by a paid person.
I don't know, but that's fine. Quite have to update it.
Okay.
Probably takes me a lot less time than it did the previous person in respect to that.
Councillor Mason?
I think that probably just one other thing that I'd like to say is I saw One Haverhill as being an excellent forum for being a strong voice for Haverhill, and potentially it still could be. The fact that it's not meeting or nothing much is happening, residents are concerned about infrastructure in the town. The health group, working party, that would be an excellent forum for the discussion about the fact that we had the Camps Road Health Centre close, and there is an urgent need. Not all clinics are now being provided in Haverhill. Some people are having to get on a bus and go to Bury St Edmunds or elsewhere, or to Newmarket, and that is far from ideal. And One Haverhill would have been the forum of a voice where you would invite people in who are stakeholders in decision making potentially, so that they could hear the voice of the representatives of Haverhill. If that isn't happening, then the status quo is likely to last longer than we would want it to last. And I find it troublesome that if One Haverhill isn't going to provide that voice, then who is? And I mean, I know we're meeting Ian Gallen soon, the Chief Executive of West Suffolk Council, but I think everyone around these tables are wanting the best for Haverhill, and if those conversations aren't happening at One Haverhill, then we need to ask the question, well, how can we make them happen ourselves as town councillors? Thank you.
Yeah. Just a little quick one on that one. Could One Haverhill apply to the town council for a grant, as in the leisure and community funding?
Under the current policy rules, I can't think of any reason why not. Obviously, we would then retain the money and spend it on their behalf, which we hold their bank account. It's perfectly possible, I suppose. to do that, right?
Yeah, as Joe mentioned, they do good work, and potentially that's a funding stream. But
Councillor Dave Smith.
If One Haverhill is going to be a bit moribund, shall we say, is there a gap there for the Haverhill area forum to get a bit more active? Would that work to perform a similar function, or for a wider area?
My only comment on that would be the coterminosity of boundaries wouldn't work. So they're quite different functions. The One Haverhill, everyone's in Suffolk for a start, everyone's in West Suffolk District, and everyone's serving the town of Haverhill. So I don't know what the reaction would be to requests from Haverhill Area Forum to do things that weren't coming out of the Principal Council. It's not really, I mean, One Haverhill is not a body to lobby for organisations to do things, because those organisations are on One Haverhill. It's a body to coordinate and make more out of the sum of its parts. So really, for an organisation to come along and say, we wanted to do this thing, who can help us, who can make it even better, rather than for One Haverhill to demand that one of its partners does something different, because it makes it very difficult for One Haverhill to write to a partner, because that partner itself is sitting there, in theory, writing a letter to itself demanding it does better.
I guess you're saying that they're not a lobbying body, but then we aren't we, really, as a town council? So wouldn't it make more sense to have the local parishes to back up what we're saying? So,
I don't disagree with local parishes. As I said, in terms of going for Essex and Cambridge, I'm not entirely sure whether the principal councils and the health authorities, etc., whether they, I don't know what their remit is to even be allowed to listen to the demands of people from outside their area. I don't know whether they could.
Yeah, but as you know, things like health provision, it's not just people come from across the border to use the health and the education. So, yeah.
Okay. I get all of that. But One Haverhill Partnership is really about trying to bring all the strands together to all pull in the same direction. So that really only, I would have thought, works where all the funding streams are the same. Because otherwise, I think if you're going to do, and we had this at One Haverhill, the Haverhill area forums, is if you have, say, Suffolk County Council along, and people demand that the road is improved between here and Cambridge, they'll say, well, we'll do the bit to the roundabout, the toilet roll, but after that, it's not our road. So, you then have to have Cambridge in as well to listen to that. We have enough trouble with people doing that in Suffolk without bringing in 2 other counties worth of public bodies to point at each other.
Okay. Can you contact the current chair to see if another meeting is being planned? Thank you. We can move on to item 8A, the adoption of the committee reports, Energy and Sustainability Working Party that was held on the 12th of December 2022. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Brown, seconder, Councillor Stinchcombe. All those in favour? Carried. 8B, Planning Working Party, 2 meetings, one on the 20th of December 2022 and 17th of January 2023. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Lewis Smith, seconded by Councillor Hanlon. All those in favour? Carried. And 8C, Leisure and Community Committee, the meeting was held on the 10th of January 2023. Can I have a proposer?
Sorry. Before you get there, I have made some typo corrections to this, which Clark will...
Yeah, I've taken those on board, but the approval of the minutes comes...
That's correct, we've mentioned it, so when we eventually get to L&C, the next L&C, they'll be in there. The early typos, there's no change to the content of it, but I will propose it.
Thank you. Councillor Dave Smith, a second. All those in favour? Carried. Moving on to item 9 on the agenda, to consider the renaming of the Leiston Community Centre. Certainly there's been a few emails going round and round, and some interesting proposals. Who would like to kick off? Councillor Burns.
Well, I mentioned obviously it's not just the renaming we've got to do, there's all the other things that go with it, both the marketing and encourage people to use it, particularly the community kitchen, whether we use it for commercial reasons or not, it brings some income in. I personally prefer, because we did lose the Chalkstone Community Centre on the day of the election in 2015, much to my disgust and I think other people's as well. I think that the Haverhill Community Centre should be the name of it. It covers the whole town now. The other one is basically I can't call it a commercial enterprise, but it's not far off it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dave Smith.
No, how you expect me to disagree with that. I do think as it's in the area of the Clements, it's part of the identity of the Clements. So I would rather it was changed to Clements Community Centre rather than Haverhill. It is for everybody in Haverhill. But we're trying to build up some sort of community identity around Clements, give people sort of pride in their area, and it just gives us a focus for the actual area of the Clements estate. I mean, the recent bus map that come out actually shows it the areas that Chippers, for some reason, I don't know if anybody else knows that. Doesn't even say Clements on it, it says right across the Clements estate it says Chippers. Anyway, yeah, that's neither here nor there, but anyway, my proposal would be to have it as the Clements Community Centre.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I fully understand what Dave's saying, and we're coming from Dave, and normally I would say it's on the Clements estate, but we're down to one community centre in town now that's run by the council. I just fear that calling it the Clements Community Centre, one, people won't feel included, in outside areas. They think, it's for the Clements or whatever. Whereas if it's called the Haverhill Community Centre, I think it'd be a lot more, an attractive proposition for the people in town. It does benefit the people of, the Clements by being on there, so they'll get the most. Undoubtedly, they will get the most use from it. But I just think that it should be, the Haverhill community. And I understand where you're coming from, but I just really think that it should be the Haverhill, community centre for all the town.
Thank you. Before we move on to Councillor Dave Smith, can someone just enlighten me as to why or how we lost to Chalkstone?
Back in 2015. You haven't got that long. I was going to say, how much time
the lost is the right word. The Chalkstone Community Centre is a thriving community centre. There's lots and lots of activities going on for the community and by the community. It's how come that we were able to put on such a good activity day, because there were so many different organisations and bodies and community groups working out of the Chalkstone Community Centre. I don't think that necessarily, I do get that it's not run by a council, it's run by a community organisation, and that doesn't have anything to do with whether we call it the Haverhill Community Centre or the Clements Community Centre. I think we probably ought to just be it's a little bit unfair on the people who are doing a sterling job running the Chalkstone Community Centre to suggest it's not a community centre. It's still there, it's doing precisely what community centres are supposed to do. And bear in mind, we want to change the name in order to help start a marketing exercise in order to bring more money in by charging community groups and people having parties, etc. to use it. So our business model is no different whatsoever to the community group that is also charging for use, just the same as West Suffolk used to charge for use. I don't think there's, I know that people are miffed about the method by which it transferred from one entity to another, but that isn't for tonight. But it is still a community.
I'm totally in the dark, so I just wanted a bit of background information, but by the sounds of it, it's too complicated. Councillor Dave Smith, and then Councillor Lily Smith, and then Councillor Burns.
Yeah, that's a very good point that Colin's made there. There is a Chorlton Community Centre. It's got a main Chorlton Community Centre. It feels a little bit to me like, oh, we don't want to call it the Clements because of the previous bad reputation perhaps that Clements has had, and it will put people off going there. That's what it feels like, a reason not to call it that.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, I was just going to say a similar sort of thing actually from what Connie's just said, where we've got something called the Chorlton Community Centre, whether it's owned by the council or another body, it's still identified as the Chorlton, so therefore I don't see a problem in having the Clements Community Centre. And meeting the people that I do, obviously it's my ward, so meeting the people that I've spoken to in there, I think they might be a little upset, if you like, if it's then changed its name to something that is not within their, like Leiston, it obviously, or Leiston, is it Leiston? Leiston. It obviously refers to the road in which it's located, and I think to not give it a locational name in that sense, they may be able to upset, but that's just my thoughts on that. Thank you.
Councillor Burns?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Colin, about the chalkstone, but the matter of the fact is I've got a paperwork that thick. The fact there was no consultation when it was handed over, it was loaded with West or St Edmundsbury chief executive costs to make it a loss leader. They just wanted to get rid of it. It never went out to consultation. At the time, the Silver Band and Centre Stage were desperate for places. They were not even going to look in. There were comments made about the gangs of the Clements wouldn't go into the Chalkstone by certain people at the time, which the police were horrified by at the time. There were some dubious efforts by a councillor at the time, who also was associated with the group that took it over. And weirdly, when I asked for the documentation on the handover the day after the election, they'd lost them all. They'd only sold it the day before. I've given it away, and the property department at St Edmundsbury didn't even know it was being handed over. It had been all handed over by a different department. So it was a major loss to the town. It was a major loss at the time, and I'm not saying it hasn't got better, but because it was actually making a profit at the time, if you took away those CEO costs, we could have taken it on as a council, and it was making about £15,000 to £20,000 a year profit. And I understand what Councillor Smith said about the South. I think the problem is this is a town council asset now, and that I really think we ought to be promoting it as a town council asset. I mean, even call it Haverhill Town Council Community Centre if you want to make a big name out of it. But I think that's a bit wordy, if you know what I mean. I think it's more important, whatever you call it, is what actually is in it. And it's not just the hall we're talking about. There is the community kitchen, there is the meeting room and everything else that's in there. And the ability for people to hire it if they want to, for a party or whatever it might be. Obviously we have problems, as I mentioned on the email, over the locks and all this sort of stuff. So then it needs a lot of effort to do this. It's not just putting a new sign up on the outside of it. But that's, you've heard my personal preference anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, just go back. I did say in the email that I sent around to everyone that they do good work up at the Chalkstone Community Centre, and should be applauded for it. But the thing is with that, we do not control that building. We do not set the policies there. We can't change anything in that building, how they do things there. Also, it's a church. Some people may feel that they don't want to go in there, for potential religious things. I don't know, but the building that we own in Haverhill is the one up in the Leiston. It should feel inclusive for everyone. We can set the policy there. We can say what goes on there, etc., etc. We can say what the charges are. It's down to people in this room. It's all the people of Haverhill. I just really think, as I say, it's on the Clements. It's near to everyone on there, so that people in the country can get more benefit than anywhere else in Haverhill. But I honestly do feel that it should be the Haverhill Community Centre.
Thank you. Councillor Mason, please.
What's in a name?
Yeah.
You know, in terms of the amount of energy that we're talking about in terms of publicising it, does it really matter what it's called? Because it's actually for publicising and the elevating it in terms of people's awareness and putting it in people's consciousness, which is actually our primary motivating factor in terms of thinking about what should it be called. It's about actually raising public awareness. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the notion of taking the name away from the community from which it sits. People's sense of place is important to them, and for a community that potentially could take pride in a really well advertised and promoted facility within their own community that is available to the whole of Haverhill, but it's in their community, the Clements community. There's a sense of pride there potentially that they have a community asset of which they live in their community, which is called the Clements Community Centre. And for me to take that away from the community, that sense of it being within their community and belonging to their community and encouraging that community to use it as a place for meeting, because of course community isn't houses, it isn't the community, it isn't the Clements, that isn't a community. Community is where people meet, and we want to be encouraging people within these estates to gather and meet. And for me, you know, there's a certain element of pride that I could see that people who live on the Clements could see this really high quality facility that is part of their estate and something that they can take pride in, that is available to the whole of Haverhill, and inviting Haverhill to make use of their wonderful facility. I don't know, it's slightly philosophical in terms of what we're doing in terms of taking that name away from that community. It just makes me feel a bit uneasy, and calling it the Haverhill Community Centre kind of makes it slightly too corporate isn't the right word. Bland. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. One little thing on that, if you lived on the Parkway, you wouldn't think like that. You'd think, well, how comes they're getting all this refurbished, sent up there with a new name and everything like that? What have we ever had up here? That's where I'm coming from. Yeah. Anyway.
Councillor Stinchcombe.
If we can conceive that there might ever be another community centre in Haverhill, beyond our lifetimes even.
Well, what about Red Road development? There's going to be a community centre over there, is there not?
Red Persimmon was supposed to be building the primary school. There'll be a public meeting room, community room within it.
Okay. Well, if this, and who's going to own that? You see, I mean, Haverhill Town Council is mine to own that.
No, it looks like it'll be owned by the school and be used by the school during the day.
Right. Okay. Well, if the town council ever happens across another community centre because it's been rejected by someone else, or someone makes an offer we can't refuse, us an offer we can't refuse, I just wonder if we've called the Leiston the Haverhill Community Centre, what's the other one become? Haverhill West Community Centre? It's not in central Haverhill, is it? It's not right bang in the middle. It's not so obviously Haverhill. You could create a problem further down the road. You can always solve that by renaming all the community centres, but it's just a thought.
Councillor Roach.
Yeah, I did circulate earlier on when we were looking at names. I had suggested Haverhill South or South Haverhill Community Centre because it's already got that designation, isn't it? Haverhill South is a thing within the Clements and that area, so it's sort of it's a compromise name, I suppose, between one and the other. But South Haverhill Community Centre is where it is. It's in South Haverhill.
Councillor Dave Smith.
I don't think the people identify Haverhill South. That's just a political thing, really, isn't it? The only thing I was going to say, I think CCC looks better for marketing.
Councillor Furman.
it's a shame really because it's not reaching its full potential at this community, is it? I mean, what is it doing at the moment? Not a great deal, is it? I mean, when you're going to reach launch aim, you've got to change your aim, as simple as that. I think so personally, that's my opinion. And it's a shame, I mean, I got married out like 14 years ago. It's a lovely little community centre, and it's not even advertised on the website, the prices of anything, everything's behind, isn't it? And we're in January now, February, March, summer's coming up, loads of availability for parties, etc. Ain't been hanging out, is it? Once again, it's all behind. Shame, really. But I reckon I think the Haverhill Community Centre is a good name. Good name for it, that's my opinion.
Councillor Hanlon?
Yeah, as I say, I think it definitely needs changing. I think we all agree with that. But Haverhill South, the problem with that is because boundaries can change, so it might not be Haverhill South. But definitely Clements is the best way to go, because I think Councillor Mason absolutely put it brilliant. You know, it's part of the community. We as a town council can publicise that it is for the whole of Haverhill. You know, that is the way to go, and it's definitely the community that. There's no doubt about it. The Clements area will mostly use that more than the whole of Haverhill, but we must include Haverhill, and it's up to the town council to get the rest of Haverhill to use that Clements community centre.
Thank you, Councillor Hanlon.
Thank you.
Councillor Burns.
Sorry, yeah. It's an interesting problem, because the reason we're looking at renaming it is apparently people don't understand that Haverhill is Haverhill and Leiston is Leiston. And it's particularly relevant when you look at the website, you do Google on Leiston Community Centre, it comes up with Haverhill. And I can understand if someone's trying to book that, but then you go in there and it says Haverhill. You think, well, okay, where's that? You know, if you were living in Leiston, you probably don't even know where Haverhill is. I do wonder when, forget the whole concept of what we're talking about, it's just rename it to something like a name of something, you know, like Fred Smith's Community Centre or something like that. A lot of community centres are named after people, and perhaps that's maybe what we should be doing, is having a complete rebranding of, you know, finding somebody who is worthy. How you do that, I don't know, but
Just Smith.
I'll throw that one in.
I was wondering whether we should have the community themselves come up with a name in that case. Perhaps have some sort of competition going, talk to the people in South. The whole town, yes. Perhaps come up with a name for it.
Voting Boatface.
Yeah.
Just an
I shouldn't
idea.
have said that, because that gives them ideas now.
Yeah, that's what I think. Perhaps we should have some sort of competition, perhaps an online competition that we could organise, or elsewhere as well.
Or schools.
For people with schools, yeah, schools. Perhaps the kids can come up with that.
What about the three names that we proposed, just Haverhill South, Clements, or Haverhill Community Centre, and ask for people to vote which one they think is the best out of those three? So, yeah.
Although I do like the sorry, I just finished. I do like the idea that it could be something totally different. That's what Burns said. Thank you. Sorry.
Councillor Littorini.
Okay, I'll put my name forward.
As someone that kind of lives in that area, to me the community centre has always kind of belonged to the Clements. I do worry we're going to strip it of its identity. There are lots of community spaces in Haverhill, so I don't see why we need to name it just Haverhill Community Centre. You know, it is the Clements Community Centre. If you call it that, in terms of marketing, to me that seems a lot better. You know, people can't find it at the moment. Well, if you call it Clements Community Centre, people know where it is. That's pretty obvious. If you start going down the route of calling it up after someone, you're going to get into the thing of confusion again. Potentially it'll bring up different Google search results. I think keep it simple. Clements Community Centre.
Councillor Smith, Dave Smith.
Can I make a formal proposal then that we go for Clements Community Centre?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Do we go for a straight vote?
Go for a straight vote. Those people who want something different need to vote against. If you're happy with this and it's the majority votes, then that's the end of the matter.
Okay, so the proposal is to rename it the Clements Community Centre, and it's been proposed by Councillor Smith, Dave Smith, and it's been seconded by Councillor Lucarini. All those in favour?
Yeah.
6. All those against?
Abstaining.
Okay, so that's 3. It's carried.
It's been carried. 6-3, 2 abstentions.
Can we make sure we don't spend an inordinate amount of money on marketing?
I was just about to come on to that.
Graphics.
No, I mean the main thing really was that if we're going to give a really big push, that we don't say halfway through pushing, somebody says, oh, we should really change the name while we took the opportunity. So we've done that.
No, I don't
And then
want
we'll
to
push it.
spend money.
And we've taken on board what you're saying. That's our point when we get on.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay, thank
So
you.
the marketing, there isn't going to be a budget for that. It's just going to be a new sign and a lot of social media publicity.
That's good
etc.
debate anyway.
Yeah,
very
yeah,
good.
because I'll just share those.
Okay, we can move on to item 10, please.
Yeah.
Ethics Parish Chair.
Haven't got that yet.
I
was waiting. Item 10, financial matters, to authorise a payment list totalling £106,984.69. The proposer is Councillor Roach, seconder is Councillor Burns. All those in favour? Carried. And 10B, repairs to the temporary extension at the Arts Centre. So this was obviously put up something like the beginning of COVID, about 2.5 to 3 years ago, as a temporary structure. It now leaks, and you want it to be weatherproofed and also create a closed cupboard at a price of $8,200. Have we had quotes for this?
We have. We really struggled. There was people we approached. We had 3 quotes. There were 3 people. One never did quote, despite lots of chasing. This was one company.
Do I presume that you really do need a pitched roof? Because obviously
That's why it's
a
leaking.
flat roof at the
That's why
moment.
it's leaking. This is the second quote, which is the one
What
we
difference?
recommend. There's a slight difference. I think one of them may not have wanted the work to be perfectly honest.
Right.
And is this a local company?
They're both local companies now, because we're deciding between things.
Was it kind of basically going to repitch the roof, are they?
Yeah, basically to put this covered sheeting, which is what it should have been in the first place.
And will there be a slight angle?
There needs to be a better angle than there is at the moment.
There is no angle at the moment.
Exactly.
Is it paddling pool, is it?
There is a limit because there's some stuff just above, so there's but they can get a better fall, as you say. The fall at the moment is negligible.
Does that then become a permanent structure?
No, it still remains a temporary structure, but it means it's a temporary structure that we can keep going for a while. The trouble is at the moment, I don't want to be unfair and say worse than useless, but if you've come in when it's raining more indoors than it is outdoors. It makes a kind of rain curtain you have to walk through. So we need to rip it down.
Singing in the rain.
In which case there's a cost associated with ripping it down. And obviously then there's been a bit of stuff's been getting stored in there, and some of the stuff shouldn't be in there at all, and some, but we need additional storage space. So the other half, the slightly less than half, is to actually just extend it a bit and have some decent doors that are closed, and also a sign pledging blood from the take team that they're not going to dump anything else in there. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. I think if we'd known at the time that things would have gone on so much longer, no one knew how things were going to take, then I think they would have probably done something slightly better in the first place. But it was kind of put up rather quickly, I think, on reflection. In fact, even the person who's quoting, who did the original work, is saying if they'd known, they'd have put a different angle on it in the first place.
Okay, Councillor Lucarini.
I'm a little bit concerned with this, really, that it's a lot of money to spend on something that's meant to be temporary. Obviously, the original proposal for this extension was during COVID. It was to provide another entrance into the Arts Centre and house temporary toilets for social distancing measures. We were told at the time that once COVID restrictions ended, it would be taken down. And I think we had that conversation with the planning department as well, that we didn't have to get permission for it because it was just for COVID.
Has COVID ended?
Well, in terms of government restriction, yes, there are no social distancing measures, which was its purpose, and the toilets have gone, and they were never there long anyway, to be honest.
No, they're there twice, and the ability to put them back still exists.
The structure's never been that great anyway. It's ended up as a dumping ground in there. Personally, I wouldn't spend the money on it, and I'd like to see it removed. I don't think it's necessary for the functioning of this building.
Thank you, Councillor Burns.
I tend to agree somewhat. I'm a little bit perturbed. Just 2.5 years after we spent £9,000 on this, we're spending the best part of that £9,000 again just to fix the problem. So whatever happens, whatever you vote for, we need some sort of guarantee. I don't expect to keep seeing bills every couple of months because something's not working. We expect it to be fixed and a guarantee made by whichever builder is chosen. I personally would have liked to see a lot more people, because these are just general builders. I'd maybe like to have seen a proper roofing person get involved with the quotes. Yes, it does look like a sieve, but what concerns me slightly is we've still got 3 benches there that have been there for months that Councillor Brown offered to help install on the railway walk. We need to get those out of there because they're taking up a ton of space in there. So if nothing else, let's progress that. Now we've got the railway walk resurfaced. It's an ideal place to try and find out where they can be done. I'm sure Councillor Brown will probably help. I'm not forcing you, but
Before you come into that, can I just put my 2 penny in? If we take the structure down and don't replace it at all, surely the reason they're not just dumping stuff there, but clearly the tech team and other people are running out of space to keep the equipment.
So that's why they asked for an extension of the extra storage space, because they don't have anywhere to put stuff.
So that's a permanent requirement?
Well, as a council, you've agreed to get some drawings done by architects for an extension which includes lots more storage space, as well as making this area permanent. So this is going to be temporary in any case, because you've already agreed to fund research into replacing it with a permanent thing. So the question of talking to the planners and saying this is what we want to do next is going to come up imminently anyway.
Councillor Lucarini.
Just out of interest, Colin, the metal kind of units we have up the zone, how much did they cost?
They
3.5.
I think they were something like
About
that
3.5.
each.
Yeah. Would we not be best, if storage is a problem, would we not be best buying another one of those metal storage units?
The storage is for stuff at the Arts Centre, so we'd have to then bring everything back each time
No, I
we needed it
think
from the Arts
Councillor
Centre.
Lucarini means another.
I was thinking kind of up the zone, but is there not stuff that's not used all the time, or
That's all the stuff that's not used at the Arts Centre has gone from the Arts Centre.
Because a lot of the stuff that seems to be out in that thing doesn't look that important to me.
Well, obviously there's benches being moved. Yeah, I mean,
to me, it's like someone needs
there's
to sort
tables,
out,
there's tables and chairs up there,
Right.
if I remember rightly. So those are for the area, for the Arts Centre. And that's what the storage cupboard's for, is to enable those to be put away.
Councillor Burns.
You mentioned a plan. Is there a plan?
For what?
Well, you said in terms of as per plan and discussed at the site visit,
No, that's a quote from the...
I know from the thing, but presumably that, what plan?
Did we give them one, or did they give us one?
Well, I wasn't involved in the discussion, but basically the plan, not as a paper, that the intention, if you like, is that if you look at the outside where the most external door is, to your left there is a area which has not been covered. The well that's still there has not been covered, and that area would be boxed in above, and there would be double doors where currently there's a wall. There would be 2 doors cut into there, so neat doors, and then that big cover behind, which would store everything.
Can I there? So basically, we're now going to have to put timber up or metal up or whatever to support a new floor for a new unit of some sort, because it is a big dip down there.
Yeah, same as is being used outside.
Could we not actually make it part of the internal, what is existing there already on the left-hand side? Because you've got this big area which currently has got the benches there and all the other stuff, and just have that as a walkway for people to go through. And then, because is this stuff for the internal, for the art centre, it just means they've got to carry it a lot further because it's outside now. Would you not be better off
If you're already outside, you reach it from indoors.
No, I understand that, but it's still further out from the art centre. We've got all that space on the left-hand side, behind the bar, if you like. Could we not make a covered unit there internally, so that the walkway through to the art centre is more of an alleyway rather than a big open space? Then you wouldn't have to have all that shoring up a new floor. You just use what you've got internally.
Could do, I guess. Yeah, if you didn't want that big open area, it would stop people dumping stuff in there.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Councillor Roach?
Could I suggest that we park this and bring it back when we've got some drawings and we can see what's going on? Because at the moment, you know what's going on because you're here and Colin
Well, I don't
knows.
really, no.
No, but for the rest of us, it was a temporary structure that was put up that was supposed to be temporary. I think we need to see at least some plans on how we're going to use it before we decide to spend the money. So I'd prefer for it to come back with a bit more detail.
But we do the benches. We do the benches.
Yeah, that's a separate matter. Yeah, I've made a note.
Lovely, thank you.
Councillor Lucarini?
I agree with what David was saying. Just wondering, as part of that, are we able to talk to other tech guys? Is there anything they can move around or create extra space? Has that been...
Well, they have done a lot of tidying up there anyway, but the trouble is, of course, is it's a convenient...
I get that. That's what worries me a little bit, though, that it's just convenient rather than, a reinvestigation.
Councillor Burns' idea of using that as a cupboard would actually prevent it from happening.
And can I just say that stuff has gone missing from there, not stolen or anything. People come along and throw it out because they don't know what it is, like all the bunting.
And do bear in mind as well that we've got 12 new round tables, 120 chairs or whatever, and like I'm led to believe, well I've seen it, that some of these round tables are stored in the fire exit, which is, I'm led to believe, illegal.
Well, they're
No,
not
sorry,
blocking- they're not blocking
Chair,
it.
let's not say that.
No.
They're not blocking it at all. They're behind the yellow line. They're clearly out
I
of the
didn't say
way.
they're blocking it.
It's
It's not
not
allowed
illegal.
them in a fire exit.
It's not illegal. It's not blocking. The area is entirely clear.
Okay, well. Right, so moving on. The proposal is to park this at the moment till we have fuller details and plans. It's been proposed by Councillor Roach, seconded by Councillor Lucarini. All those in favour? Carried. And as an addendum to that, Councillor Brown, are you able to move and install the 3
Well, I've got
benches
position, yeah, I should be able to do it.
when you've got permission?
No, when we've got...
We know the location.
Don't know
As soon
that
as soon as
location,
it's good for you,
yeah.
we can get that done.
Thank you.
Sorry to move on that.
Cheers.
Okay,
Yeah.
moving on to item 11, the budget and preset for 2023-2024. To approve the 2023 and 2024 budget. We've all had the detail from the clerk, and I believe that we can have the actual budget up on the screen.
Oh, lovely.
So, any particular bit you want to see? That's the
Councillor Burns?
Yeah, only I was going to say, I sent Colin some updated zone figures yesterday. Did they make sense just before we...
yes, they did. So, Councillor Burns and I have worked on the zone figures and trying to get a little bit more of an understanding about the zone figures we've been receiving after Christmas, which have been much better than the ones from before Christmas, and looking at how robust it is to be able to say that this trend is likely to continue. And what we've really found is actually the trend started, the uplift, the increase in use started sometime before Christmas. And it's slightly, you don't spot it so easily because Christmas was a short month, because December was a short month because it wasn't open for the last week. But when you take that into account, then actually the numbers all look pretty strong. So we have made some amendments to the budget, and if I go to the budget briefing sheet, I mean, effectively what we've been able to do is bring the precept increase down from 22.2% when we were first talking about it to 18%. So we have managed to knock about £6 a year off of the, just under £6 a year off of the precept for Band D. So things are better than they were. So I think we've really gone over it as much as we possibly can.
Thank you. Councillor Lucarini?
Yeah, thank you for your work on this, Colin. I think it's a really good budget. Obviously, it's scary, the position we're in. It's not good, but I'm pleased to see all the work that trying to reduce costs where possible is appreciated. I just hope that as energy costs come down and hopefully our income goes up, that future councillors are able to reverse some of this.
Yeah, it's income going up is the main thing.
Do you have any other comments? Councillor Hanlon?
Yeah, just a quickie. Really, it's the the 30. It's gone up from 31 heat and light, 31k to 153k. That's an enormous cost. I know Colin said that the income has helped it, but that is enormous. And I recommend, I propose that we go for, and thank Colin and obviously Councillor Burns as well for squeezing it down to 18%. Thank you very much on that. So I propose we accept 18% increase. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder?
Is the budget closed?
Oh, the budget. Sorry, I've gone too early.
So, if there's no other comments, can I have someone to propose that we approve the 2023-2024 budget? Councillor Lucarini, seconder is Councillor Liz Smith. All those in favour? Carried, but with 2 abstentions or against, but carried anyway. And 11B, to approve the precept for 2023-2024. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Hanlon. All those in favour? Carried. And 11C, to authorise the chairman and the clerk to serve the precept demand on the district council. Is that a proposal? Councillor Lucarini, seconded by Councillor Burns. All those in favour?
Right,
Carried.
If I may add, Chair, my contribution is extremely small compared to the rest of it.
Still important, and also other councillors all chipping in, etc., is all very much appreciated, because it's a big task. So I really appreciate the real constructive support that I've had from councillors right across the board.
Thank you. We can move on to item 12, policy review. 12A, recruitment. Papers have been served to you earlier. If you've had a chance to read them properly.
If I can just give some background, we have a funding application to go in that just needs to see that policies have been reviewed. So where we have issues like this, unless there is something screaming off the page that isn't acceptable, these were adopted before. It's perfectly acceptable for you to approve a review of these, even if you then say this needs to then be reviewed again fairly shortly. It depends whether there's anything like that you want to say.
Councillor Burns?
Can I just ask, has there been any change from 18?
No.
Okay, in which case I will propose approval.
Councillor Smith, seconded. All those in favour? Carried. And moving on to 12B, data protection. I presume this is similar.
Except that, again, thank you to Councillor Burns. I pointed out I should be referring to the Data Protection Act 2018. The principles are still exactly the same in actual fact, but of course the Data Protection Act was 1998, which isn't actually no longer a current thing. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, is that a proposal?
Just a couple of comments.
Sure.
The Appendix 1, there's a link to the dpr.gov.uk. That doesn't exist anymore. It's now ico.org.uk.
Okay.
And then the right to access information. It says the Town Council will make a charge of £10 for each official subject access request. The ICO says that there should be no charge unless the request is, I can't forget what you used to call it.
It's above the threshold, isn't it?
Yeah, so unless it's a really complicated...
You want freedom of information or something?
No, subject to access. Unless it's a complicated request, we can't charge for it.
Do you want to remove the charges?
I think that's part of the new act.
Yeah, and then the other thing I wanted to put in the policy, there should be about the right to be forgotten, how we handle that.
I think probably that one would need to be reviewed by a group to work on that one, particularly not going to do that by a simple amendment tonight.
No, I have no idea.
What I can suggest is we can take on those the correction to the appendix and remove the charge, and then if you're happy to approve it as amended, and then we'll look into that for a future revision.
Okay, so subject to these changes, do I have a proposal? Councillor Lucarini, seconded by Councillor Burns. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 13, to receive any urgent correspondence received after the agenda was published. Do we have any? No. Thank you. Item number 14, actions taken under delegated powers. None. Fantastic. Item on the agenda number 15, the date of the next meeting is Monday, the 20th of February 2023. Closure of the meeting is at 20:33.